So essentially, while the government's wanting to put in greater protections for gig workers, you're saying one of the things essentially that needs to be protected, or at least the government needs to keep in mind, is the gig workers' right to flexibility.
Absolutely. I'm not sure it's really about protections. If it was, we'd be talking about insurance, we'd be talking about safety. We're absolutely up for that conversation. But once we start saying we want to put people on awards, I'm not sure that is about protection. The cynic in me says, the unions aren't currently in these sectors and they want to get into those sectors. That would be a very poor reason for doing this kind of change. But, again, we're asking respectfully, let's work out what problem we're trying to fix. Let's try and fix that problem. But let's not kind of shut down one important and emerging part of the economy. Let's not shut down the innovation that's happening in this economy that consumers want and that workers want.
I know you had a meeting last week alongside the BHP chief and others with the same job, same pay process. How damaging will that be in your mind? The government, again, saying it's about equity, ensuring all those doing the same job receive the same returns. But you're worried, I know BHP's certainly talking about costs of hundreds of millions of dollars. So it's not really in tune with what the RBA is suggesting. The RBA is calling for greater productivity. This doesn't seem to fit in with that message.
Absolutely. These things sound good as a slogan, same job, same pay, but that's not actually what's being proposed. So let's kind of really unpack this. What's being suggested is that every single person, irrespective of whether they've been there for 10 years, 2 weeks, 2 days, is going to get exactly the same conditions and pay as someone in the host employer, assuming that you can work out whether or not people are actually doing the same job. So how's this actually going to work? How fair is it? So if I'm an engineer, but I'm working on an extremely complex thing in BHP, and I've got 15 years of experience, someone comes in for a couple of months and they get exactly what I get. And they get the same things. I've negotiated in an enterprise agreement, bonuses, childcare, extra things that people put into their enterprise agreement. And what BHP said last week should really concern every Australian. When a company says, this is going to cost us over $1 billion, well, people may say, well, that's a big company. But that's $1 billion of activity they're not going to do. The important projects they want to do in South Australia, vital to the South Australian economy. So my question again is, what is the problem we're trying to solve? Labour hire is a very legitimate part of our economy. Many of the labour hire firms have their own enterprise agreements. Now, why would you go and do an enterprise agreement with your team if when they go on a host employer's site, it doesn't mean anything? So, again, the thing that's going to drive productivity is the enterprise agreement system. Our big fear, Kieran, is that this same job, same pay will deter people from doing enterprise agreements, because why would you do it? If someone comes in and they're going to be there for 2 days, they get exactly the same bonuses, conditions. Why would I, if I was a labour hire firm, do an enterprise agreement if those conditions don't apply in the host employer? And these labour hire arrangements, we've got these huge infrastructure projects. I was in South Australia last week, these massive projects that have to be done. It's crucial that people be able to flex up their labour force. What I'm nervous about is that, if we just keep adding to cost, and not fixing productivity, companies have got really only a few choices. You charge your customers more, you employ less people, or you do something overseas, or you don't do something at all.
And when you're looking at the three different things the RBA governor warned about, that being wage rises at a time of low productivity and high inflation, those things don't all operate at the same time effectively, hence rates have to keep going up.
Exactly. So we should be doing everything to put downward pressure on inflation. I mean, of course we want people to have good wages. We want them to have growing wages, but that's got to be sustainable. That's got to be because people are more productive, because their company's more efficient, they're using equipment, they're training people better. It's not because someone's forcing wages to go up. That sounds fine in the short term. It won't last. And particularly if you're a small business, you've only got a few choices. You make your customers pay more, and we can't afford that at a time of cost of living crisis. You don't do something, which means you don't expand, you don't grow, you don't kind of have workers on for a longer period of time. You reduce your workforce. I mean, this is the problem we've got with a low productivity economy, and that's why the RBA is absolutely right to warn that this is not the way to solve our inflation problem.
Business Council Chief Jennifer Westacott, great to chat as always. Thank you.
You're welcome.